the human aspect of things. So maybe honing into part of what Laura said. So yes, you've designed all those changes or transformation even. How do you take your people on board? And I'm just going to share with you some thoughts and experiences around that. I'm going to start with a short story. So I spent about 5 years of my career working with Cosmote Group. For those of you that are not from this country, Cosmote is the biggest telecoms operator in this country. Used to be the former incumbent, so a former state-owned company. And in 2011, the merger process with the mobile arm of it, Cosmote, OTE and Cosmote started merging together. So this launched a very big transformation process for what used to be our state-owned telecoms incumbent. Being part of Cosmote when I joined, then we started changing a number of things. One of the things we started to change, or we realized, was that everybody was talking to one another inside the company in writing. Rather than sending emails to one another, they were actually issuing documents. That is, in 2011, the biggest telecoms operator, so we sell email and internet to people, the company was spending about 4 million euros per year, 4 million euros per year, in everything that went into photocopies and manual labor, just to talk internally, yeah? Nothing externally. So of course, all of that's changed, and there were a number of legal things that had to change for this to change. But people, so we changed the rules and we advocated for email and everything. People still kept on writing memos to one another, written memos with stamps and signatures. So effectively we said, sorry, it is forbidden to send it by paper. And then what we found out was that, so most people changed when we changed the rules because it was forbidden. A small part of the population was doing the following then. Since it was forbidden, they were writing the document, printing it, stamping it, signing it, and sending it to the other person, scanning it and sending it by email. Now, mind you, this document was nothing necessarily official. It could be, the cafeteria will be closed on Friday for engineering works. Yeah? What I want to say with this story is you need to not forget the people and what are the experiences of the people you are leading. And for most of us, this sounds like an anecdotal example, and in a lot of sense is. But there are numerous cases in any bibliography you can find of changes, very inspirational or very basic ones, that failed because of the human factor. So basically what we actually ended up doing is hand-holding people, explaining why it is okay. Your password is equivalent to your signature, and it is actually okay to just send an email. It has exactly the same power. Some people understood it from the first email. Some people needed more help to do that. So I'm going to share with you a few thoughts on how to avoid big failures like that, or hopefully how to avoid big failures like that. So is this good for me? Maybe yes, maybe no. Then went to a store to probably went to a store to purchase it, and experience the product, and then advocate for or against the product. Customer processes nowadays probably look something more like that. The fundamental process is still the same, but then there is a million other touch points that a customer has during the buying process. So it could be that they saw us in an online ad, in an email, part of radio or print. Then when they consider it, maybe they check with their friends on Facebook, what did they think about this product? And then they purchase it probably in an online store or maybe something else, and so on and so forth. 38% of our daily media interactions happens on a smartphone. Consumers move between multiple devices to accomplish their goals. So 81% of the browsing happens on the internet, 67% of the shopping is online, 46% manage their finances online, and 43% plan a trip online, in one device or another. Another key change to that is that rarely do we now have people who watch television have only the television on. Most of the time, they will have something else on at the same time. 49% with a smartphone, 34% with a laptop. And online shopping, of course, is a major, we're not going to say, doesn't need much more about that. Google actually has gone a step further and has defined what they call Generation C. Before I tell you what it is, how many have heard of this before? Generation C? Okay, all right, about half of us. So Generation C, which is the new thing after Generation X, Y, the millennials, and so on, is a powerful new force in consumer culture. It is a term we use to describe people who care deeply about creation, curation of information, and so on, connection and community. It's not really an age group. Of course, if you have an adolescent at home, most of you probably don't, judging from the age, but some might be in interaction with kids, they understand that they are definitely going to evolve to be this kind of people. But I would argue that it's just more than just an age group. It's independent of age. It's an attitude, it's a mindset, and here are some of the defining characteristics of this Generation C. Now, mind you, this impacts both who we view as our customers, but also who we will end up employing. And it also impacts what kind of skills we need to serve those Generation C customers. So, it is a state of mind. Generation C strives for expression. They will use any type of media they have at hand to express themselves, and they do that many times during the week. They're a test maker. They will try things, and therefore they need to consume things big, but they tend to consume small parts of things. Try it, go somewhere else. They'll start a job with a big company, then they will decide that they want to do volunteering in Oman, and then they will want to go back to a bank, and then move to telecoms, and so on and so forth. Much of what we do in career planning in HR, for example, needs to take that into account. Generation C defines the social network. So there was a study that about 87% of these people post at least once, have a profile on Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. And 67% actually post at least one post every day. They're constantly connected for doing everything. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not paying attention, but it does mean that they are constantly connected. They connect on YouTube on all screens. Of course, this is Google stuff, so they need to promote their own stuff. But it is true. They connect on YouTube on all their screens. So the fact that telecommunication costs are going down, only yesterday, roaming was rendered for free in Europe. So you can roam for free and watch your video on your mobile phone. This is already big, and it will become even bigger. They value relevance and originality, and both of these change very fast. So what does this mean for us? This inevitably means that we need to change or basically die. Whether the change has to do, is done in a digitization way, so simply automate a process, change a little bit the way we do things, or completely transform digitally the way we do things, we do need to change. So how do you think this curve looks? I mean, over time, generally, when you, as time goes by, the people who adopt a change in a company, let's say you implement a new appraisal system or a new CRM, more and more people will come to terms with it and adopt the change and maybe impact other things. So probably the adoption of change will look like that. Yes, no? Sounds logical? Most heads are nodding. Actually, data shows that this is how change is adopted. Very few people will adapt at first. Typically, everybody expects that you will have a sort of linear adoption of change. That's not how things work in practice. You have a very slow start, then more and more people become engaged in what needs to be changed, and then actually it sort of accelerates even further than the linear to reach the final point. So it's far from being linear. This is very basic change management theory. So in any change, most of you will have probably seen this terminology before. This is, if we have the totality of the population, about 2.5% are the innovators, the people who will adopt any change sort of at the very first. So they are really waiting for the new iPhone to buy it, and they have already pre-subscribed for iPhone 12. Yeah, they're already pre-subscribed for that. You have the early adopters, which account for pretty much 12.5% of the population. These are rough figures. You have the early majority, so they won't really be the very first ones, but they are a fairly large group that will adopt any change. You have the late majority. Now, by that time, you have more than half of the population already in the change, so they are sort of the late in the majority. And you have the resistors, a 15% of your population, which finds it very difficult to adapt to any change or to a specific change. So how do we deal with those different groups? I would argue that you need to split them into these 4 boxes, depending on how much they resist and what influence they have in the organizations. I would also argue then that you need to start with your innovators. These are your quick wins. They don't really need much convincing. They're already convinced that something needs to change. Then you move on to the critical mass. Now these people are low in resistance and high in influence. So you want them on board early. You need to look in the organization for who they are. Who are the champions in the different departments that can be your advocates within the organization for any type of change, be it digital transformation or digitization. Then you get the silent majority, the people who have influence but have more resistance. Now, and you need to make sure that you keep the momentum. So as you grow people on board of this change, you need to make sure that this is where scale comes to play. But you already have a big distribution of change agents throughout the organization from that stage. And finally, you deal with the holdouts. Now, you can't delay that too much, because there are many cases of change where this group, even though they're not particularly very large, have made this any change fail. And also, if they are really resisting, maybe you should revisit a little bit the content of the change, or maybe the way you communicate it, to try and, like the example I shared before. Yes, of course, you're not going to start with hand-holding, teaching people how to do email, but at some point down the line, you might need to do that as well. So, all of what we've already talked about is not very new change management theory, and comes from the ages where we did automation and digitization. The next few slides are more about digital transformation. A new set of behaviors and skills become necessary. Internal processes need to reflect the customer processes. So, like I said before, since the customer experience cycle, the customer cycle is changing so drastically, and it's no longer linear, it's much more circular and continuous and fragmented in a way, people's skills need to adapt, and also our processes need to adapt. You need to be wherever your customer is. This might mean that you need virtual customer care, and many other things, just to name one. Your product teams and the skill they have now need to change. The power is no longer with whoever is building the product, but it is with the consumer. If you're a company who needs to sell, and most companies do need to sell, you need people who are able to select, analyze, and make sense of large amounts of data. The technology is there to give us all this data, and you need the kind of analytical minds who will be able to make sense of this data, select what's relevant and throw out what's not, and make sense of all of it. You also need empathy and agility, much more than you needed before. So they become paramount in product teams. Since many of the contact points might be virtual, a special type of empathy, you need to be able to empathize also in a virtual way with your consumer to make sense of data, to build products and to support existing products. These competencies for large corporations who have been around for ages are not necessarily to be taken for granted. Also, leadership skills are quite different. People need to, it's not a nice to have kind of story to be able to lead virtually and to lead diverse workforce. I would argue that it's also a way to understand your customers. I have an example from Vodafone, actually. I think I can name it. Please don't quote me on that and don't record this one. They've actually, including Vodafone in Greece, and they've said they're in a large transformation process. Is anyone from Vodafone here, by the way? No? Okay. They have said that every manager, besides those who are physical customer-facing ones, every employee, sorry, not every manager, every employee needs to work at least 1 day a week from home, compulsory. Not they give the opportunity to whoever wants to work from home, compulsory, in order to try and build the kind of skills you need to empathize in a virtual way. This is not only important for HR purposes and how to lead others, it's also critical for commercial roles who need to understand in a similar way their customer. And of course, you need to change your employee value proposition to cater for these Generation Cs. As these people, the Generation C people I talked about, they're already in the market, but they're increasingly becoming an increasing percentage of the market. You need to address a number of things in the way you deal with staff. Traditionally, we used to say that your EVP, and it's still true in many cases, but a number of things changed here. And part of your employee value proposition is, of course, how much you pay people, what kind of benefits you give them, the career path and career prospects you give them, the culture, the work environment, like work-life balance, and so on. These are still very much relevant, but very often we need to readdress and revisit some of those to cater for these people. For example, how to attract talent. The days where you would just post an ad on a newspaper, it goes without saying, but maybe on a job site and just expect to get the best people are long gone. Even in Greece with this crisis, good people are working. They have a job. So whatever you decide your EVP to be, Generation Cs will be very selective as to who they go to work. And it's not just about the money. I would argue it is about all the other elements of the EVP. I have an example to show you with a client I recently worked with. How many of you have heard of BlaBlaCar? Okay. So for the rest of you, BlaBlaCar is a company that does ride sharing. It's the equivalent of, it's similar to Uber in a way, but for larger distances. And they started in 2008, and for the last 2 years it has been, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most successful startups in Europe. Yeah? And they started in 2008, and if I'm not mistaken, their worth is now $1.2 billion. They're headquartered in France, and they grew very much organically. Very little of what they did was by buying companies that pre-existed in some markets, and they did that primarily because they wanted the first movers advantage in those markets, like Hungary, for example. The difference with Uber is, first of all, the fact that it is for larger distances, and also that it is not for profit. So it is more geared toward, I'm going from Athens to Kozani, and I have 3 free spots in my car, let's share. But the maximum I can make as a driver is the total cost of the journey. I cannot make a profit out of it, and it's tax related, to share the cost. So I did some work in their attraction and recruitment process last year. They are headquartered in Paris, but they are in 32 countries, I think, by now. And they work very hard on what their employee value proposition is. And I'd like to show you a little bit. I will not show you. Δεν έχουμε ίντερνετ σε αυτό, ήταν στον ειδικό μου υπολογιστή το ίντερνετ, νομίζω. Okay. What I would have shown you was that a lot of the work they did in terms of building the EVP is actually on the recruitment website. If you currently go, I have done that quite a lot because most of my customers sit in Greece. And most companies have their openings and maybe one page about, you know, we are a good company, we have free yoga, we have free lunch, if they have it, and you know, we pay well, and that's it. Very basic stuff. And Generation C it's not going to be enough for them. They're going to be very selective as to why they want to go work for a company, even if the salary is less. I also work a lot with technology companies, and I find, and as if you've done recruitment in your life, you know that developers are a very scarce commodity. And macroeconomics show that it will become even more scarce as time goes by throughout Europe, not just in Greece. And I have had numerous examples with customers that I have worked with where our developers got an offer, a higher offer than what they were paid, and they still stayed. And they stayed because of the rest of the employee value proposition, because of the way they are offered to develop, etc. How to inspire existing workforce changes. Imagine, for example, those of you who work in large banks, the head of the bank having a YouTube video once a week to address everybody. I see some faces, you know, saying that it's not in the very near future, but it needs to change, and it will change eventually. The way how you share strategy information changes. You don't necessarily need large town hall meetings to do that. But the frequency with which you need to do it will need to increase. BlaBlaCar, that I named as an example earlier, so they are in 32 countries. Every 2 weeks, they have a virtual town hall meeting with everybody. So there is about 200 staff in Paris, and about, I'm guessing now because my data is a year old, maybe another 300 staff all over the world. Everybody is in a virtual meeting twice a month for about 2 hours, and they have a big auditorium in Paris that is virtually enabled to be able to telescreen, and everybody telescreens into this meeting. And they share valuable things. Now, their market changes every day. So, for example, when I was doing some work with them, they had a problem in Spain. The equivalent of CTEL, so the long-distance bus driving company, actually was able to put a court order and block them for a number of days. They could not operate in Spain. So this was a huge crisis. They had just about finished this crisis, and they taught one another the lessons learned out of this crisis. Yeah, how to deal with it from a communication perspective, from a legal perspective, etc., etc. As more and more industries become disrupted, as we saw a number of times before, sharing information and strategy in a real-time way will become pivotal. How to get feedback and how to track and monitor performance. Another example from Vodafone is that currently some of the marketing department, now they haven't really rolled this out everywhere, but they have increased in some of the departments. So typically, if you have ever seen marketing reporting of a telecoms operator, it is about this big. Like there is everything that moves is measured that has to do with the consumer. The sentiment, the feeling, the net promoter score, you name it, indicator, and it exists. Rather than waiting for the end of the week to receive your 100-page report, which you need to read over the weekend, everything is available on a dedicated application on your mobile. So as data becomes available, you can just see it, it's there. So where do I start? If I have a change to be implemented, first of all, I need to make sure what needs to change. Then I need to think and decide what are the new skills and behaviors that I need that will be required, and how will I build them. Classroom training will go a long way, but not enough of a way. There's a number of other things you need to talk, like culture that you addressed earlier, and a number of insisting habits. You need to know who are your innovators, your critical mass, your silent majority, and your resistors. Remember the terminology we used before. And you need to understand how these people feel, think, and act when they interact with you. You need to develop a dedicated approach strategy for every single group. And mind you, in these, I'm only talking about internally. There's a number of other external factors that you need to consider that Laura talked about earlier. You need to master the technologies, because pretty much all of those changes are technology enabled, and master them yourself. Make sure that your leaders walk the talk. So if, for example, you've implemented this fantastic, you're Vodafone and you've implemented this fantastic application I just talked about, but the CEO still wants to see it on paper, I'm not saying that this happens, I'm saying if, you've basically undone half of the work you did. Build a network of change agents. Help, support them, and celebrate with them their successes. Make sure that you measure the right KPIs real time for every touch point, every interaction. Again, the Vodafone example. 3. It takes a long time, and it's going to take a number of iterations if the change is substantially big. Finally, ensure that you have the help and support you will need. Now, there's a number of ways you can get support. You can get support from an external consultant for whatever you define you need help with. You can find support in partnering with other companies that are going through a similar journey, or like Philippos said before, partner with, if you're a large corporation, partner with a startup to try and learn and understand and learn some of those skills. And with that thought, I would like to thank you very much for bearing with my technical problems.